All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today, we are going to go over the Constitutional Convention, how states got their power, and the Three-Fifths Compromise. Now, the Three-Fifths Compromise is one of those issues that's going to play a factor for the next month and a half. It's the elephant in the room, and that is basically about slavery. Okay, we are going to be talking about it here and there, things like that, throughout the next month and a half. So you're going to see why it was such a big deal and why we basically had a war to solve that issue, whether slavery should be legal or illegal in our country. So the objective today, we're going to analyze the problems that the issues of slavery brought, and then we're going to critique the Three-Fifths Compromise. All right, let me move this over. There you go. So the first question asks you, what's going on here? All right, put in your own words what's going on. Look at the captions, look at what's being said, and things like that. Um, the second question tells you, does it look like this guy, the big guy, is liking what's happening to him? So look at the little people, look what's happening, what's being said. Look again, the captions really should help you out. um, and justify why you think what you think. Okay, so point out some factors and things like that in this picture. Okay, so pause the video, write your response. Okay, because we're moving on in three, two, one. So May 1787, every state except Rhode Island sends delegates to Philadelphia. Okay, and their sole purpose is to revise the Articles of Confederation. So if you forgot about that, watch the video last week to get a full understanding of what it was and what it was about. But just remember, it was weak. It was like a baby with no teeth. It's not going to do much, you know. So right away, the delegates decide, you know what, let's just throw the whole thing away. Instead of saying like, oh well, this worked and this worked or this didn't work, let's just toss it and start brand new. And so that's what they did. So in total, there were 55 delegates, right? And some of these guys were the most distinguished leaders at that time in our country. Some of the most smartest men, you know. And this meeting was called the Constitutional Convention. Now, all the delegates are looking around going, okay, well, we need somebody to lead this group. Basically, tell us, get us in order, tell us, hey, these are the rules, make sure to enforce the rules. And not only enforce the rules, but that people will actually listen to this person. And everyone just does this, turns and looks at George Washington. And George Washington's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Because again, everyone respected and trusted George Washington. Now, some of the other people that were there was like Ben Franklin. Well, I mean, not only popular in the United States, but worldwide famous. And especially at that time, that is something unheard of. But again, his contributions to people and science and his literature made him world famous. Also, one of the more smarter people, excuse me, Alexander Hamilton, was a financial genius. He was there, as well as people who was really good with using words, such as James Madison. So, here's my first question to you. Why would just about every state send a person or persons to represent them at this point of revising the articles? So why would a state say, you know what, let's send two people, three people to represent us, you know, at these convention? What would be the purpose of that? Okay, so think about it. The writing prompts on the bottom to help you out. Okay, but pause the video because we're moving on in three, two, one. So there were three things that every delegate, all 55 of them, agreed on. One, the new government needed more power to gather taxes. They need that oomph to basically force people, farmers, businesses, whatever type of business, to collect taxes from them so they could pay off their debts and then get out of this recession. That's the number one thing they all agreed on. The second one was make laws that would bind upon the states. Okay, so make sure that what law is being federally made, it's followed throughout all the states and not just, okay, this law is okay here, 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 but not here. No, no, no. It binds them all. And that the government should be broken up into three branches. So if you remember the uh, Massachusetts, uh, I'm so sorry, Constitution, they mentioned breaking up the government into three branches: the executive, legislative, and judicial. Okay. Again, they were like, yeah, that was a really great idea. We should do that. Now, like I said, those were the three things they agreed on. There was a ton of other stuff that they didn't agree on. One of the biggest one was how to distinguish power amongst the states. Um, and they were like, well, every state should have one vote. Small states like Rhode Island and things like that, they love that idea. Hey, yeah, every state should have one vote. That's fair. But then larger states were like, no, no, are you serious? How can a state that has, let's say, 1,000 people be equal to a state that has 50,000 people? There's no comparison. No, 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 no. The states with the most people should have the power, not the states with a small amount of people. And small states were like, well, is it our fault that the boundaries are already set and we're already this small? No. So does that mean that we have no rights at all? No, that's not fair. That's not right. So already there's arguments amongst the states. So here's my next question to you. Should every state be equal regardless of the amount of land they have or the amount of citizens they have? So should every state get like one vote or should it power be based off population? What do you think? Which one what do you think is better or fair? Should use that word too, fair. Um, so pause the video, tell me what you think. The writing prompts on the bottom. Um, and let me know, okay? So we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So Roger Sherman, that's him in that picture right there. He's from Connecticut, and he has like a beautiful idea. He says, "Okay, okay, look at that. Listen, listen, listen. The legislative branch. We've already said it's going to break off into two groups, right? Into two branches. So we got the executive, the judicial, the legislative, and the legislative is broken up into two groups, right? Well, why don't we then put one group as a House of Representative, which is based on population, and then this group called the Senate, and that's where every state gets one vote. So both sides are happy. Now, each side was like, yeah, no, that sounds good. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this makes this group happy, and this makes this group happy, and the only way that things can get passed in the legislative branch is if both sides agree, both small states and big states. Yes, fine, awesome, sweet. This became known as the Great Compromise, or as the Connecticut Compromise. Now, Roger Sherman, I'm sure, was feeling good and like, heck yeah, I did something. I stopped this argument. But he also opened Pandora's box. He also opened up a can of worms or whatever type of analogy you want to give, where people think they're doing something good and something bad happens because of that action. And you're going to see what it is in a second. The issue that it brought up to the forefront, right in the spotlight, was state population and slavery. Okay? Remember, population in the House of Representatives equals power. Now, there's a lot of states in the South that have slaves. And they're like, let's count these guys as people. The North doesn't have slavery. A lot of places they don't have slavery. And if they do, it's very minimum. The thing is, they're like, well, no, no, you can't count slaves as people because you don't treat them like people. And this is where the whole argument comes out about slavery. And the Southern people, the ones who had the slaves, they were like, well, no, 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 they're people. They're flesh and blood. They should be counted as a person. The North was like, okay, well, okay, so you're saying they're people, right? Yes. Okay, you're saying they're people. Um, do you treat them like the average person? No. Why not? They're slaves. Okay, so they're slaves. They're property. Yes, they're property. Okay, so you see them as property, but yet you want them to be counted as a person. A person is not a property, and a property is not a person. So how can that be? You're basically causing a contradiction in yourself. The South doesn't want to hear about this. They just no, no. The slave should be counted as a person. Why are they arguing for that? It's again not that they care about the slaves. They just want the power. Because once they have the power, they know they can make any laws to keep slavery going on, and that's what they want. The North does not want that. Okay, so you have to remember during this time, this argument is going on. The country is still moving. There's still this stuff going on. The country still hasn't paid off their debts. The debts keep getting higher and higher and higher. Um, People are still suffering. Nothing's coming into the country. Stuff that is needs to be sold or bought, it's basically on the docks. It's decaying. It's rotting. So things are getting bad. Well, these guys and argue about this stuff. So they finally say, okay, okay, how about this? Instead of them counting as one whole person, how about we count them as 90%? The other side said, no, 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 not 90, like 20%. The other side says, no, 80%. I said, no, no, no. How about 40%? How about 75? How about 45? And they keep arguing, arguing, arguing until they get to 3/5, which is 60%. That was the golden number. So for every 5 slaves, they counted as 3 people. Okay? And that's how it's written in our Constitution. And it's still there to this day. You can actually see it, the 3/5 compromise. So tell me, what do you think would have happened to the United States if the 3/5 compromise wasn't reached? Again, like I told you, our bills are still unpaid. There's no money coming into the states, into our country. Our resources aren't really getting out. The stuff we are bringing in from other countries, they're spoiling, they're being destroyed, they're just piling up. How do you think people would react while they're arguing and stuff like that? And things are getting worse and worse for the average person in America. How do you think they would react? All right. So, um, write your responses, pause the video, okay? Because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so tell me something you learned today, something you liked, something you thought was interesting, okay? Um, Now, in my government class, if you have me for that, we will be exploring more in depth to the article Confederation, the Constitutional Convention, the 35th Compromise. We will get more in depth in that. If you do not have me for government, hopefully you'll have me next year so you can learn more about that. Okay, this is just again an overview to basically get you prepared for that. Okay, so hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. All right, I will see you guys in class. You guys take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. All right.